Hey, it's Matt Roush,
And Mike Brennan.
and we're back with a familiar face in another segment of the M Squared TechCast. We have with us today former Michigan Governor Rick Snyder. And Rick, I gather you want to talk about entrepreneurship today.
Yeah, well, it's great to be with you. I mean, I've worked with both you guys long before I was governor, so it's great to continue this dialogue. And if you think about it, entrepreneurship is something we really need to encourage during this challenging period. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed all our lives in so many ways. But one of the things we have to look at is one of the solutions is innovation. And that's where we need tech entrepreneurs to continue on in so many different areas. And there are new unique challenges that they face even in their positions, but we need to work through these because innovation is the answer. I mean, that's where we need a vaccine, for example.
Yeah, hopefully soon, but I don't know when that's going to be. We have Fred Brown, who's an epidemiologist, also lives in Ann Arbor. He comes on in our fourth segment today, and he's coming on every week to kind of keep us up to speed because he's working with a number of states and governments around the world, and so he's pretty informed. But it seems like, yeah, the vaccine's the real key to getting back to whatever the new normal is going to be.
Yeah, but there's a lot of pieces to this. It was interesting as the COVID crisis really started happening and we started seeing how serious it was. There were some good innovation opportunities even coming out of that, though. I had the opportunity to work with some U of M doctors, for example, that were working on a device called VentMe, which is about how you could double the capacity of a ventilator by safely splitting it. And that was exciting to see. And that's something that was done out of necessity. I mean, they were on the front lines of seeing terrible things going on. And the question is, how do you do something about it? And they weren't the only ones. Actually, I had the opportunity to get involved in a couple forums. And Mike, you've been involved in a lot of those kind of forums where you bring people together with new ideas.
Oh, yeah.
And as you know, it's one of those things that many of these ideas may not end up going anywhere on their first pass, but you never know. They may come back years later or they may have value in a different setting. And that's what we're seeing today. I mean, like we're doing this video conference. I mean, that used to be a rare thing. How many video conferences do you do a day now?
Yeah.
Too many. I do 3 shows a week. So this is one, and I do one on Wednesday and one on Thursday. And I'm not going to fill in Tuesday and Friday because I need a little downtime. But yeah, this is the new normal for communications. But everything is moving to video right now. I mean, I read all the studies on social media. And if you're not doing video, you're not being seen on social media. So you got to do it.
Yeah, well, it's important to have that interaction. And again, that's where it's the next best thing to being there in person. And that's what we all found. I mean, my biggest challenge now, though, is there's so many different services. How many different applications have you had to download depending on who you're talking to?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Zoom
let's
is just
talk a little bit.
most popular, but there's dozens of other ones too.
Yeah. I'd like to talk a little bit about how entrepreneurs get financed, how innovators get financed. I know back in the 90s when I was a finance writer at Cranes, Mary Kramer asked me to write, to do a Cranes list of all the venture capital firms in Michigan. And I told her, well, the good thing about that is that it won't take up much space in the magazine because back then there wasn't much in the way of venture capital. Things have gotten from awful to at least mediocre, maybe more than mediocre now in Michigan, would you say? I mean, what's the current status of angel investing in venture capital in Michigan?
Well, I think Michigan's come light years. I mean, we've come a long way. Are we California or Silicon Valley or Boston yet? No. But as a practical matter, I think we're clearly kind of in that next tier of jurisdictions and states in terms of what's going on. And it's something that takes time to build. And that's good economic development. I've been doing economic development work and venture work for decades in some capacity. And it takes 10 and 20 years. That's what people don't realize. It doesn't happen overnight because it's not about having just personalities. Like you said, Matt, it was a short list back then. I was on that list. It was that short. And I think you probably could have had, a couple inches of lines and that was about it. But now if you go, there's a significant list. Because it's really, I define it as how do you go from the founder effect where you had people doing it to actually having it have its own organic life. And it's not dependent on people anymore, but there's an ecosystem that's been created. And we still need to nourish that. If you look at, we've had some great gains, particularly in the med bio field, that's done very well, and IT. I mean, these are traditional strengths of Michigan.
Yeah, it's been interesting. For instance, in terms of angel investor groups, there's more than a dozen now, and the Michigan Angels, which is of course based in Ann Arbor, has more than 150 members. And when I left the West Coast in 1995 to come back to work at the Free Press, like Matt said, we didn't have there might have been one or two groups. And then, of course, we've got a lot of venture capitalists that at least have an office or a one-person office or something here in the state, which is, I mean, like you say, in 20 years, it's come a long ways.
Yeah, you put it in context, because one of the things I was proud to be part of before I became governor was helping create Ann Arbor Spark. And if you think about it, that was just a number of us coming together. The university was a great partner, starting an organization that now I haven't been involved with them directly for a number of years. I go to their programs when I can, but if you look at it, they've become a major force in terms of entrepreneurship and innovation. And it's not just the Ann Arbor area. I mean, there's good things. Detroit's comeback has really caused a creation there. Grand Rapids has done fabulous things. And Invest UP is a group that came along and are now doing some exciting things up in the Upper Peninsula. So it's not exclusive. I mean, the main thing we need to continue to do, though, is keep the networking going. Because, again, too often we think we're on an island, and we need to reach out and figure out how to work together. And we need to continue creating more and more serial CEOs. In addition to the funding thing, we're now getting mature enough where you have people now that have taken and grown companies. They've had those companies get acquired, and they've done it over again. I mean, you got Tim Mayleben with Aspirion. He's been involved in a couple of Aspirions. You got guys like Jeff Williams that have done 3 or 4 companies. Those are great resources that we need to replicate more often, of people that show that skill set of they're really good at saying, okay, you got a company in this position. They know how to grow.
Yeah, Doug Sung would be another one. He's done quite well for himself over the years. So made a few bucks off his last deal.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, that's where you find the kind of the alumni club. So it was great. I watched other jurisdictions do this, and we probably should do more of it, where you sort of look at the friends and family network that have sort of gotten created. So what companies then spun off how many different future founders and entrepreneurs, because they had the opportunity to learn in one place, they go do it again.
Yeah. So what are you doing these days? Are you investing? Are you starting companies? I know you did a decompression there for a bit, and I think you got that out of your system, but what's happening next?
Yeah, I'm just helping people. That's my title, is I like to say I'm a helper now. And so I'm helping a couple young companies in terms of doing some work with them. I'm actually writing a Thursday column now myself. I just put it up on Facebook and LinkedIn to share some ideas. And the other part is, when I finished being governor, you had that list of things you sort of put off for years. So I'm about 80% done with a list of items I never thought I would get to, which is pretty good. So I'll catch up on that and then find some new things to do.
And can I have a couple examples of the things that you'd put off?
Actually, simple things I put off is a lot of it is just organizing your life, Matt. I mean, how often do you have all these files and records and stuff like that? The other joke is actually I got Sue, we're updating our estate plan, because it's that old thing, you never think of that, because I last looked at it, it was from 1999.
Yeah.
So our oldest child was 11 and our youngest is now 24. So I think we need to get up to date.
Yes, that's true.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think the state of technology is in Michigan, as one who's been an angel investor, a venture capitalist? You former CEO of Gateway Computer. Yes, we remember all that stuff.
Former magazine publisher too, which is
magazine publisher.
I remember Small Times. That was a great publication.
Yeah, it was. Thank you.
So, how would you assess where we're at, and what do we still need?
Yeah, the part we still need is a technology we've always been strong at. What we need to do are continue to grow. Again, these serial CEOs I've talked about, is continuing growth and just letting people continue to develop and encouraging young people to be innovators. I mean, we're still getting around to that culture of saying it's not just about having founders, but having teams built. And so we need to work on building more teams of people that can bring good marketing skills, other skills. And we need to be louder and prouder. I still contend we're not loud enough about our successes. I mean, you mentioned Doug and Duo. That was wonderful for the state. I mean, that really helped us, put another mark on that national VC map. So we need to get out and tell our story more. Renaissance Venture Capital is a great illustration of a fund-to-fund that I think has done good about promoting venture capital in Michigan in so many different ways. My old partner, Chris Reisig and Jeff Reinfeld are both there. So we need to continue that path. So there's not a light switch kind of answer. It's more watching this continuing development and having great places like Detroit come back, continue, and places where people want to come and build companies.
I know one of the things that I think you're on the tail end of it. I think it was more the previous governor, but it was all those tobacco money that we got, $50 million a year, that the state was using to pump into businesses. Now, of course, I think that's all pretty much gone. Do we need something like that where the state gets more heavily involved than they have been?
I don't necessarily know if I think that's required, because to be open with you, governments are not good at picking winners and losers. That's not a good strong suit for government. I think it's really helping create the infrastructure for these things to happen. And that's where I think there's an opportunity. Again, if you look at the COVID crisis, I think this is a case where you're going to find people in New York and the Bay Area, these big areas, that look at Google and some of these companies saying they can work remotely now for the next year, essentially, if not longer. That's where we need to be drawing these people to Michigan. I mean, if you had a choice between being in a congested skyscraper versus being on the shoreline of a Great Lake, which one are you going to choose?
I know Matt would choose Traverse City. So
yeah. Well, I think that's a big opportunity that we should be leveraging the great resources we have to get people to learn how to do this more remotely and to work those places. Because again, I think they're great growth opportunities.
Yeah, and it's really having an impact on the commercial office market. So there's so many buildings now that are only partly full, or however you want to say that. But the companies are evaluating, do I really need office space anymore when people can work from home? So
yeah, that dynamic has changed dramatically, and I don't think it's going to go back to just what it was before.
No.
Yeah. And I think you might start seeing more of what you saw in Midtown Detroit and downtown Detroit, where you have office space that's abandoned and is eventually converted to residential. I mean, like the David Scott building, places like that in downtown Detroit. I think you might start seeing some of that in suburbia too. So
yeah, I think you nailed that. I was talking to some real estate people recently, and that I believe was the trend, to say instead of traditional office, it's going to be a live workspace where literally you're going to maybe have your apartment and then a connected office. And again, get collections of those people doing it in that environment. I mean, because that's where it's great what you can do now and the different ways you can communicate.
We've only got a little over a minute left. I know you do your Thursday column on Facebook because I read that there. If someone wants to reach out to you, I know you don't want to give up your phone number or your email address necessarily, but have them contact Allison, or what would you advise?
Yeah, Allison's great. She still runs my professional life, and a good spot's LinkedIn too. I'm on LinkedIn and I have a lot of connections there. So that's an easy one to connect. I've actually started the Thursday columns now, a newsletter on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so Allison Scott, what's I know I contacted her to reach out to you. So what's her email address again?
Yeah, it's Allison at rpaction.tech, TECH.
Okay.
I didn't want to be another .com. I had to be a .tech. Got to have some fun.
Of course. And just before everyone goes, I want to blame everything on Rick in the sense of when I was at the Free Press trying to figure out what to do next, I met with him and he talked me into starting MITech News. So I blame you for that.
Well, it's great to see success.
Yeah, I've been doing it for 20 years now. I don't know anything else.
20-some years
right?
later, yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, we just have different hair colors than we had back then.
Yes, I didn't have all this traces of gray in mine. I think yours is a tad darker as well.
Well, and I actually had hair back then. So.
Well, it's great to be with you guys. I'm glad you're doing this show because, again, you're helping create that ecosystem for success for entrepreneurship and innovation.
All right, former Governor Rick Snyder, thanks for being with us. Maybe we can get you on the show again later this year. What do you think?
Oh, happy to be with you guys. We go way back. Happy to keep that going.
Okay, thanks very much.
Traditional four-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life, but LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.